Yeah, thank you very much, Pete. And actually, what you will be seeing now in my slides may look a little bit like a little merger of the presentation we just saw from William and the other one presented by Frederick. So hopefully you can. Sorry for not being able to provide the slides in time such that you would have that at hand at the moment. But as said, there's a lot of similarities in those. So I'll keep my presentation very short and just try to comment a little bit on the aspects that Frederick mentioned, that William mentioned, because in the end, by the way, the conclusion is pretty much the same. What we are involved is drafting this European roadmap electrification of road transport that was already shown before in the context of the European Green Cars initiative, which again was mentioned before as well, so I will not tell you more about that at the moment. Just want to mention it's a public-private partnership out of the European Recovery Plan, public-private partnership for research and development, mainly focused on electrification, but also on other ways of raising the efficiency of road transportation. Interestingly, it has not worked on heavy vehicle electrification so far. That is indeed a new thing, and I'll try to make a little bit the link between the basis of the discussion that we had so far and this new aspect. Okay. So this is what Frederick was just showing. It is the electrification roadmap for Europe. What you see here is an accumulated number of electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles on the roads in Europe as predicted by the technology platforms involved here, and this is based on discussions that we had with vehicle manufacturers from all different countries in Europe, and it's pretty much the agreement that one should distinguish between a baseline scenario, which means like business as usual, technology stays complicated, costly, and there may also be a certain lack of development that would keep us at that bottom level down here. Whereas there's also an optimistic scenario saying if everything works well, if research and development is successful, if we develop the right technologies at the right time, we may even achieve quite high deployment of those technologies in Europe. But it also requires that there's infrastructure available, so this very well, I believe, fits the discussion that we had this morning as we are getting this very important signal from the European Commission that they want to solve this issue of the chicken and egg problem with the deployment of infrastructure. That is indeed supporting the move to the more optimistic scenario a lot. You may remember the discussion about numbers that we had this morning. For 2020, that roadmap is assuming an accumulated number of about 5 million electric vehicles in Europe, and what we see in terms of announcements by vehicle manufacturers seems to fit indeed this number very well. But it's also looking beyond 2020, going as far as to 2025, and is of course trying to describe what technology steps need to be taken. And indeed, the most exciting ones will be around 2020, when we are talking about a reinvention of the vehicle, a reinvention of the drivetrain, the entire architecture and things like that. What will move us then, or could move us from the bottom line to the more optimistic scenario is, for example, synergies that you may achieve through breakthroughs in different technology fields. Just consider successful development in battery technology, and at the same time efficiency gains. At the vehicle side, we had this discussion about lightweight vehicles this morning. If you bring this together and make it as coherent as possible, you may end up with a vehicle that for the same range may require like just 20 or 30% the size, the cost, the weight of the battery. So those developments are those that maybe are required for the optimistic scenario. But again, this has just talked about passenger cars so far. There has very little mentioning of trucks and heavy vehicles so far. But it's of course, a good question to consider what the opportunities and challenges in that field are. And there you see now the link to what William just told us. There's definitely opportunities that we should not miss. Consider we're not talking just only about low carbon, but also about zero local emissions, zero noise or low noise. So opportunities or issues that today we have with heavy vehicles, of course, and that we would love to solve. I think the low carbon thing, this is well understood. It's due to the high efficiency of the electric drivetrain, of course, and maybe the link to renewable energy sources. But there's something else. And what surprised me when I saw it for the first time is that indeed the cost effectiveness of a heavy vehicle, an electrified heavy vehicle, in city traffic is quite good compared to a conventional car. It's indeed increasing with mass, just due to the fact that, of course, if you have a more heavy vehicle, you will need more fuel and more energy to drive it, but at the same time, you have the opportunity of regenerative braking here, and the efficiency of that is increasing with mass. So you have two effects that are counteracting, and compared to the conventional vehicle, you have an opportunity there, which in the end of the day saves you money. So even so, I would not say it is a business case already. It is something that is leading into that direction. If you combine that with technology development, you may have an opportunity in that. Challenges, I mean, obviously you need batteries. Batteries have been mentioned before. You also need batteries with a high cycle life, as those heavy vehicles would be vehicles that you need to recharge at least once a day, maybe even during the use in short breaks. So that's something to be considered, and that is indeed still a technical challenge. Fast charging it needn't be fast conductive charging, but any kind of recharging the vehicle in whatever way you do it will be needed in order to reduce the off time. And we are talking about a case of where economics and effectiveness, cost effectiveness is the issue, is the goal. So you need to reduce off time, and therefore fast ways of recharging the vehicle will be required. And obviously, biggest challenge, as already mentioned by the previous speaker, this is not an option for long-haul goods traffic, at least at the moment, because any range you want to increase requires to add more load in terms of batteries. Just to give you a rough estimate, for a 12-ton truck, I think it's for the Smith truck or so, in order to achieve a maximum of 100 kilometers, you need to add 1,000 kilograms of battery. So for the 12-ton truck, it means 1 ton of battery per 100 kilometers. And consider driving from Paris to the Mediterranean, or from Hamburg to Munich, or whatever. Yeah, you have to fill the entire payload of the truck by batteries. So you're carrying batteries. That's indeed not an option, of course. So conclusions of that, surely if it comes to city traffic, if it comes to relatively short ranges and short daily mileage, electrification and also hybridization is of course an option, not just for taxis but also for delivery vans, also for buses. Hybridization beyond that may give you some efficiency gains in long-haul transportation, but it indeed depends on whether you have a little bit of uphill and downhill driving there. But for the long-haul goods transport, fully electric is not an option unless you have an alternative way of en route rate charging. So swap the batteries. We haven't talked about that today, but I mean, why not? Inductive charging, there's a lot of discussion about that at the moment. Consider a bus with a lot of stops in a city that is recharged just at those stops. And something like a contact line, and I mean the solution for that has already been shown today, so there you have it again, based on these technologies here, a diesel hybrid truck, the power supply by the wire, the overhead wire, and in what they call intelligent connector that is easy to switch, that can compensate for moves, that can also live with overtaking, things like that. I wouldn't say it's too far away in the future. There is a pilot that was implemented at an old airport close to Berlin in the last 2 years, and it has been tested successfully. Currently, that technology is under consideration for the electrification of a highway in the port of Los Angeles. The Long Beach Interstate Connector 710 or whatever, which is like a 10 kilometers link between the harbor and the port area and some hubs inland, and which today, to my understanding, is the most frequented highway in the United States, with like 20,000 trucks per day or so, and which is causing heavy and serious problems with air quality. So we're not talking about carbon here, we're talking about local emissions, and to reduce that is the intention, and for this, obviously, this may be an option. So to conclude, I would actually completely agree with William that there's something to show. There is, whether you do it nation, European-wide or whatever, that's definitely a question whether you can do it, but I believe there is sensitive areas in Europe as well where this could be implemented and shown, or comparable systems could be shown. And I think if you ask for a recommendation or an idea what to do, I would say why not show that in some kind of important A to B connections, which are heavily frequented at the moment and which are touching sensitive environments. That's it. Thank you very much.